jump into Falcon and Winter Soldier. I got to see the first episode, and oh yeah, I'm all in on this. That's what I can, my quick review. But talk a little bit about how long you worked on that project and what exactly you did for people that are not sure or unfamiliar.
It was a swift one, just because of the timing of the production and everything involved. I mean, I think in the room and writing episodes, it was, about 2 months, and they were a hectic 2 months. And honestly, it was my first experience in a writer's room in that capacity. And between Spellman and Musson and Kastelein and everyone else whose names, whenever I'm interviewed, I forget because I'm an asshole from time to time. I'm just tired, man. It was a joy, but it's tough because you show up at 9 o'clock, you're there till 6, and then you go home and you write. And one of the joys about working at Marvel has always been Kevin Feige, because you bump into him in the hallway, he remembers your name. And when you turn in a script, within 45 minutes, in my experience, he got back to us. And now I will say, after I turned in we did episode 3 and 4. When I turned in episode 3, he read it, emailed me quick, very praised, happy. And then I got 15 pages of single spaced notes. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm fired. And then you start reading the notes, and they were both macro, micro, and minutia. And it made it better, man. And suddenly you started delving in with someone who's like, look, I totally get the point of the spear, but let's find that stone and hone it down even sharper. And I learned a lot. And to Malcolm's biggest credit, it was a room where you look forward to being there, and that the best idea wins. Even if it created work, you wanted to hear that idea, because come the end of it, you wanted the series to be as good as you could make it.
When you get those notes back, the 15 pages, is that coming from Feige or coming from like a big team of people that have read
it? That's not just Feige. No, I mean, it's the probably 12 to 15 people, and all of their notes are compiled. And by the way, the cool thing about the notes, to the assistant's credit, there was nothing in those notes that was repetitive or conflictive. And if it was conflictive, it would be like, okay, these are conflicting notes. And you're like, oh, thank God, but I think they referred to the heads of Marvel as the Parliament. There's 15 of them or whatever that meet at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. So it was their notes, but for the most part, man, you loved finally getting a draft in, and you're like, hey, great job. It's going to go to production. A lot of it's going to change. I'm like, yep, good luck, man.
Well, I think the one thing that I think every Marvel fan knows is that they create some amazing stuff, and that it's probably this teamwork that gets to that place where everyone loves it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, everyone in that room is already kind of a fan in a certain capacities. Even if you're younger and you don't know the comic books or the video games or anything else, cartoons. The number of people I talk to now that are like, their MCU is their Star Wars. And so in that room, you can bandy about, wouldn't it be cool if? And there's a small possibility that happens. And in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it happens a couple of times. And you're like, oh, I love that.
One of the things that I heard, and maybe I'm wrong about this, is that because I think when you guys were writing, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a TV show that's taking place in the MCU. And I'm curious if you guys ever wrote anything like, say, an action set piece where you're like, we can't afford that, let's do this. And then the higher ups would come in and say, oh no, write the biggest thing you can think of.
Oh, no, it was that. I mean, in the third one, there's a massive action sequence, and I wrote it, and I was like, yeah, I know it's not going to happen. They came back with, no, we love it. Can you make it a little bit bigger? I'm like, what? Because it's to that point, like I said before, like I like tent poles, but I also like those hallway sequences. And so Marvel likes that too. But if there's too many hallways, they're like, yeah, can we blow some shit up? Yes, we can.
I would imagine that getting to play with these characters was amazing, just as a fan. Is there anything that you read in the comics growing up, or anything you knew as a fan that you wanted to make sure got into these episodes, and were you able to make it happen?
Yeah, a couple of times. Very, very minute, and I can't really say what. But when you think of you know, Marvel's in the room when you're breaking story, right? Zoe was the lead on that. And the number of times we'd say, can we use this character or allude to this character? Or is there a character that would do this? That'd be kind of cool to flesh out the world. And a lot of times it won't work, but every now and then it would be like, guys, I think that's kind of working. And suddenly, you know, when you think of, you know, the noir of it all, to have someone just say something in the background where 5 people are gonna be like, did he just say what I thought he said? And it just alludes to a larger world. Even if the payoffs aren't in the first season or even our season, in our series, the seeds have been planted.
Now, one of the things I took away from the first episode is, and it obviously couldn't have been planned, the timing that the series deals with mental health, and the fact that the first episode, Bucky is getting therapy, and which is something that a lot of, I commend the series for doing this and for treating it with respect, and the fact that he's really dealing with something. And, you know, there's a lot of people in the world talking about that right now, mental health and the importance of it. Can you sort of talk about that aspect of the series and the, you know, not the weird timing, but the timing?
You know, honestly, it comes down to everyone in that room, and most writers I know, it's like, look, there's fantasy, there's horror, there's the temple of it all, but you still want something that's grounded plus 15%. And when you look at the movies that we love, there are always those moments where it harkens back to something that someone in the writer's room was dealing with. And I think the other thing too is you look at these characters, and if you actually applied them to the real world, you'd be like, this guy would be drinking 9 crates of vodka a day to deal with what he's dealing with, right? And so we, you know, that was the Demon in the Bottle, the classic Iron Man, and some of those other ones. Like, we wanted to kind of do a nod to those, but at the same time, like, we love characters that are strong, and yet we love seeing the frailties in them and them recognizing the frailties like we do and seeking to adjust and heal. And I think that makes him more of a hero and less of an anti-hero, because at a certain point in what we do, like, dude, I like anti-heroes like like everyone else, but like, God damn it, I just want a hero again, you know? So it was a lot of those elements. And to your point on some of the best TV, it was a small, quiet, kind of like soft and gentle scene with a little bit of conflict amidst the construct, but you kind of knew that the subtext was something much deeper, and we'll see further on down the road what it really was about. And that's to everyone's credit. You know, Malcolm and Dalan, that person was awesome.
When you are doing a series like this, how much is Marvel pulling you aside and saying, okay, so this is what's going on in the bigger universe, we got to tell you about this, this, and this, and how much is it sort of like, we're only going to tell you what you need to know?
Yeah, it's need to know, man. It's completely need to know. Like, even when we were in the offices in that, was it 532 years ago before COVID, where we would be talking about story in the little lunchroom there, and you would have a guard. Like, he's the sweetest guy in the world, but it's just he's a guard, but sweetest guy. He'd be like, hey guys, just please don't talk about your show outside the room. You're like, done. But it was more of that whole, like, they know, we have clues, we have things we can and cannot say, but outside of the select few, like, I'm as surprised as the rest of us where certain episodes of other seasons and series go, you know?
Was this a one and done thing with you and Marvel, or are you working on it?
I got nothing in the works with them right now, but it was a joy, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. And, you know, part of my little extra interview in regards to favorite characters, it goes back to what we're talking about at the beginning. I just want an actor or an exec or a producer or a director come to me going, Derek, this is my favorite guy. And I can go like, great, let's go make that. Because honestly, left to my own devices, I'd want $12 million in ambush bug or something weird, you know?
Completely. What, did you get any cool swag for working on the series? Like, did you get to create a sweatshirt, or is there anything that they give you for doing that?
I got a cap, but I got a giant head, so it fits my 4-year-old. But no, I mean, when you think about the swag you get from Marvel and the swag you get from studios, like I'm doing something with, you know, can't tell you that. But they sent me boxes of stuff, and I ended up just giving it to a friend who knew was a fan. You know, and it's kind of a joy where you get something and it says, one, like, let's say 73/300, so it's rare. You're like, that's awesome. And then you call up a cousin going, because my cousin's name is John Wick. And I'll be like, hey, you want some cool John Wick swag?